Well, thank you for coming. I'm always happy to be with folks from Literacy Connects, which is probably right now the organization that we look to in the community as the model for bringing people together and getting the job done and doing it in such smart ways. I'm supporting Proposition 204, and let me just tell you why, and I'll be very quick and simple about it. Our legislature has refused to provide adequate funding for education. And in our state, when legislators refuse to do something, the law gives the people the option to take matters in their hand and vote for the proper legislation. In a few weeks, we'll know the decision of the people of Arizona. And whatever it is, I'm convinced that some form of voter initiative, as Steve said, will be necessary to protect education in this state. And we all know that education is at the core of everything we do, but in my role as mayor in a city that is the 6th poorest in the United States, I have to have an educated workforce to attract jobs here, to have a strong economy, and I can't have it without a strong education system. So it's easy to get fed up with things that go on in the state capitol. It's probably one of the reasons I'm mayor now. And, it's okay so long as you respond with action instead of inaction. And by you being here today shows you're ready to respond in the next 3 weeks with action. And what action is going to entail in this case is pretty much what Steve said. Contributing to the campaign, certainly, but probably just as importantly is making those phone calls, walking those houses, and we have this great thing now with email. And if you get a flyer, you send it out to your entire email list with a personal note that says, you've got to vote for this, and give them your personal reason why. And we will do everything we can to win this. I think it was today in the paper that it was announced, it was a good day in the paper today, the Arizona Daily Star actually endorsed the road bond, so hopefully everyone else will too. But we announced yesterday, Greg Stanton and I, when we were campaigning last summer, got together and thought that if you could have two mayors with similar ways of thinking, similar ideas about policy, and they happen to be the mayors of Phoenix and Tucson, and this is not a partisan thing, but this is the first time in 20 years where there's been Democratic mayors together of both Phoenix and Tucson, that we could actually make a difference in the state at a state level. And the first thing we agreed that we would do is form a state mayor's education roundtable. And in that roundtable, we've included Scott Smith, who is a Republican from Mesa, who this year is going to be the chair of the United States Conference of Mayors, and Mayor Lopez Rogers from Avondale, who this year is going to be the chair of the National League of Cities. So it's quite an accomplishment for Arizona to have essentially the two leading mayors of the two largest civic organizations for municipalities in the country. And our goal is really, from the state level, is to help localities in their initiatives and get information as to the mayors so the mayors can really be the spokespeople. Because Greg and I decided last summer, just as 204 decided probably around the same time, that we had a void in leadership at the state where we're supposed to have responsibility for education, and we decided that as mayors we could step into that role. And I can tell you the state legislature doesn't like it, but they're listening, and that's what we need. At the local level, we do have a mayor's roundtable. That roundtable is one of 5. They all address the issues of poverty, whether it's related to seniors, youth, education, the environment, and transit, all of these areas that we've got to approach. And so I don't want anyone to think, in fact, this room will probably be all very involved, and we're really counting on you to help us. And the initiatives we're going to go after is 3rd grade reading at 3rd grade and dropout prevention. And we're going to take all different approaches, but when we put the call out, the call is going to come to you, because this is such a large issue and such a fundamental issue that what we believe needs to happen is that as a community, we need to align and convene and roll. And we've got all the school districts on board, the university, Pima College. We're reaching out to the nonprofits, and we need to make sure our community is literate. It is the way that we get people jobs. It is the way that we get people to stay out of jail. It is the way that we get people not to have mental illness. If you look at every single social indicator, what they all tell you is that they're related to, of all things, literacy. And I'll close with this. The reason I believe that all those social indicators direct you to literacy, and we use the third grade model, which, as we all know in this room, is the place you go because you go from learning to read to reading to learn. And we can use that model because we start at early childhood education, because if you don't start practically in the womb, you're not going to get there by third grade, and you go on to fourth, fifth, and sixth grade, so it's not lost. And you go on to adult education, because what we found is, all you know, is that a lot of the children who don't read at third grade level, it's because their parents don't read, and we've got to educate those parents too. And it's really this simple. Once you can read and once you can be literate, the whole world opens to you. It doesn't matter where you are. You can read history, you can read science, you can read poetry, you can read architecture. And that's what makes for a better world. It makes for an educated voter, and I just hope we have enough already educated voters that we pass 204. So thank you for being here. Thank you for everything you do. We will be there with you all the way. Thank you.